Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the June 2024 SBIF Rollout webinar. We are excited to have you here to talk about the SBIF areas and that will be open for this month and provide you with more information about what the program has to offer. We will start momentarily. We're just waiting to get a few more people in before we start. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Latanya Jones. I am the Deputy Director of the SBIF program at Summer Corps. Just a few housekeeping notes. Everyone attending today will receive a copy of the presentation via email. If you would like to rewatch the presentation, the recorded webinar will be found on DPD's webpage. Please note that if you have any questions during the presentation, there will be a Q&A section located at the bottom of your screen, and someone behind the scenes will be responding throughout the webinar, or it will be answered during the Q&A section of this presentation. With that, I would like to turn it over to Gabadelle Mariana with DPD for a brief introduction.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us. I am Gabadelle Miranda, and I am a coordinator of economic development here at DPD. As a representative from the city's SBIF program, Summer Corps will be making our presentation today, and I wanted to welcome you. The Small Business Improvement Fund, also known as SBIF, provides grants to small businesses and property owners to make needed improvements to their properties. Over the last few years, we have made a lot of exciting changes to the SBIF program, including increasing the size of the grants available and new funding available in different TIFs across the city. Technical assistance is the key strength of this program, so when you submit your application, you will be assigned a Summer Corps project manager. This person is here to help you through the SBIF process. If you have questions about the process or run into issues that may delay your project, please call your Summer Corps project manager immediately, and then they can answer your questions and help you problem solve in real time. Your local delegate agency is also another great resource to keep you on track and to help you with any issues that you may have. These are your local chambers of commerce or your community development corporations. Sylvia will list them later in the presentation so that you can know who is the nearest one near you. Again, thank you so much for joining, and we are here to help. Our SBIF team can help you with the application or with other things, including introducing you to local lenders and helping you through the city permit process, which can be a little daunting if you're doing it alone. We're here to help you through your application and your project because we want to see you and your neighborhoods flourish. And with that, I'll pass it off to Sylvia, our SBIF director at Summer Corps.
Thank you very much, Gabadelle. As she mentioned, my name is Silvia Orozco. I am the director of the Small Business Improvement Fund program. I work for Summer Corps. Summer Corps is a not-for-profit organization. We administer SBA 504 loans, the SBIF program, as well as the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund program. So I've worked with the SBIF program for over 18 years. I've assisted hundreds of business owners, startups, and also landlords. Now in its 25th year, Summer Corps SBIF rather, is one of the longest running and most successful City of Chicago grant programs. We've helped retain and expand small businesses throughout nearly every area, every neighborhood of the City of Chicago. We've dispersed over $118 million to over 1,900 businesses. So please be advised that this is a non-residential grant program. The grant cannot be used for capital operating expenses or, any furniture, residential aspects. It is specifically for infrastructure repairs only. So again, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. What is SBIF? What is the program mission and the grant parameters? That is what we will go over today. Getting started, is your business or property in a SBIF district? Which SBIF districts are open or on deck? What are the SBIF program rules? How do you apply? And what are the resources that are available to help? We'll go over the June rollout information as well as a sample project, the SBIF facts, and the additional question and answer session at the end. What is SBIF? Our program mission. SBIF was launched in 1999. The city's Small Business Improvement Fund promotes economic development by providing small businesses and landlords with reimbursement grants for permanent building improvement costs. Residential projects are not eligible. SBIF grant uses local tax increment financing revenue to reimburse grantees for the pre-approved repair or rehab of their business facilities or adjacent land acquisition. Summer Corps is a program administrator. We're contracted by the Chicago's Department of Planning and Development. Grant parameters. Eligible applicants. Properties must be in a SBIF district, in a TIF district where SBIF funds are available and the SBIF is authorized to accept applications. Landlords of commercial or industrial properties are eligible for SBIF, as well as business owners of either commercial or industrial businesses who own or lease their places of business. Tenants with prior written approval from property owners can also apply, as well as startups. They may apply with a business plan. Just please be advised that a current business license is required prior to final disbursement of grant funds. Eligibility limits. If you are a commercial tenant or owner occupied, on average, your gross sales should be less than $9 million or less to qualify for the grant. As a landlord of a commercial or industrial property, the cumulative net worth cannot exceed $9 million and the liquidity cannot exceed $500,000 per max per individual. Industrial tenants or owner-occupied businesses are required to have 200 or fewer full-time employees. All owner-occupied properties are subject to both tenant and landlord requirements. The maximum grant amount allowed under SBIF is $250,000 max per industrial property. $150,000 is the max for a single owner or tenant of a commercial property or landlord. $250,000 is the maximum that may be granted per multiple owner or tenants of a commercial property, with each being maxed at $75,000 assistance per the landlord or per the tenant. The applicants may receive one or more grants up to their maximum program assistance. Once this maximum is reached, the applicants will need to wait 3 years to reapply. Here we have a breakdown of the percentage of eligible project costs that can be reimbursed. So if you're a commercial business and your sales or your net worth fall between $0 to $3 million, you'd qualify for a 90% rebate of eligible cost. If sales or net worth are between 3 to 6 million, your eligibility for reimbursement is at 60% of eligible cost, and sales or net worth between 6 to 9 million, you'd qualify for 30% of eligible project cost. All industrial projects qualify for 50% reimbursement. Here we have a grant calculation example. So let's say that Grace submits an application for a SBIF grant in an open district with the total eligible project cost of $100,000. She's proposing to make building improvements to her existing retail shop for which she is the tenant. Grace has been in business for 5 years. Over the last 3 years, her gross sales averaged $1.5 million. Here we have a breakdown of eligible costs as follows. With the total eligible project cost at $100,000, as a commercial tenant applicant with gross sales under $3 million, she qualifies for 90% SBIF rebates. The city's responsibility at 90% is $90,000, and the applicant's responsibility at 10% is $10,000. The SBIF program is a reimbursement grant, so project participants should be prepared with financing to support the building improvements upfront. The SBIF program is a reimbursement grant, so project participants should be prepared with financing to support the cost of the permanent building improvements. Applicants are encouraged to contact their local business lender or reach out to one of the lenders listed on the Summer Corps website in a timely manner. Grantees may choose to complete their project in phases rather than requiring 100% of the upfront cost of the project. To participate, the grantees must receive an approval for the full scope of work and the phase work schedule. Construction timing will be completed based on necessity and the contractor's recommendations. Receiving phase disbursements will be based on progress or completion of eligible construction work. Here we have a phasing example. So let's say that there's an applicant and they're looking to do a roof tear-off project, a new HVAC system, and facade renovations. So with the contract price of $180,000, they can receive up to $150,000 with the 90% rebate. So for example, here we have a roofing project that costs $60,000. With the 90% eligible reimbursement, they can complete that work, send us proof that that work has been done. We can then reimburse them $54,000. The $54,000 can then be used to complete the HVAC system. So once that HVAC system is done, they can send us proof that the work has been completed, as well as the payment documentations, and then they will be reimbursed a portion of that, which would be the $36,000. And they can then use that reimbursement also to be applicable to the facade renovations. So they can get up to 3 phase disbursements throughout the process. SBIF project timeline. In stage 1, the applicant's eligibility review phase, they're granted up to 20 days to submit any application materials that were requested. And also they do have to provide proof of site control. So you either have to have a property that you own and can provide the proof that you own it, or an executed lease agreement should already be in place. Once those requirements are satisfied, you will move into stage 2, which is the project eligibility review. You're granted up to 120 days to submit any plans, bids, specifications, and also to cure any debts that you may owe to the city of Chicago. Once those items are good to go, you will then move into stage 3, which is the project construction phase. So once approved by DPD, the applicants will receive a conditional commitment letter and the construction can begin. Concurrently, the proof of permit or permit must be submitted within 120 days following the date of the commitment letter. That commitment letter, you're granted 10 months for construction completion, submission of permits, and also submission of your proof of financing. So once those items are available to you, you can send that information over to meet those requirements. The applicants must provide proof of financing within 120 days of the conditional commitment letter being issued. Once you get that construction work complete, we start the reimbursement phase where we request your payment documentation and also proof that the work has been done. This documentation should include a sworn statement, invoices, canceled checks, and waivers of lien. Those should be sent over to Summer Corps for review. After a final site visit and processing of the documents, the reimbursement check will be delivered in 4 to 6 weeks. Unless DPD has granted an extension, the applicants who do not complete each stage within the required phase time limit will be disqualified and removed from the program. Is your business or property in a SBIF district? You can visit our website at summercore.com/SBIF to see if your property is in a SBIF district. Once you get to this page, you can click here on number 1 to confirm if your business is in a SBIF district. Once you click on that, it'll take you here to the SBIF locator tool. You can then enter your address of where you're looking to apply for SBIF, and it will give you detailed information that includes the name of the TIF district if it is within a TIF. It'll give you the rollout dates, meaning when the district will be authorized to accept applications, and also information for the local delegate agencies. These delegate agencies are designed to assist SBIF applicants with the process. So please feel free to reach out to these organizations for assistance. Sometimes people don't have printers available or scanners, they may not be tech savvy, so you can definitely reach out to the delegates for assistance. Eligible SBIF districts in Chicago span neighborhoods in the north, south, and west sides. Each month marks a new 30-day period in which SBIF districts with available funds open for applications. The notice of district openings are provided to relevant aldermen, posted on DPD and Summer Corps' websites, and included in the SBIF grant. You can visit our website for the most up-to-date list of open and on-deck districts. What are the program rules, and what businesses and organization types are ineligible to apply? Businesses such as chains and franchise businesses, places of worship, tobacco shops, liquor stores, gas stations, currency exchanges, things of that nature do not qualify for SBIF. So if you're not sure whether or not your business will qualify, you can always reach out to us and we'll let you know. What improvement costs are eligible for SBIF funding? We can cover roofing and facade renovations, components of signs or awnings which are permanently affixed to the building. We do not cover any business-specific elements of those items. Any alterations or structures that are needed for ADA compliance, such as railings or ramps, or renovations to make the restrooms ADA accessible, can also be covered. HVAC and other mechanical systems, plumbing and electrical work, certain project-related architectural and construction management fees that are related to the project can also be covered. Permanent interior renovations, including fixtures, and the purchase of the adjacent land parcels for purposes of expansion or parking. This list is not comprehensive. If you had something in mind and you're not sure whether or not SBIF can cover it, please feel free to reach out. What improvement costs are ineligible for SBIF funding? SBIF does not cover any new construction, whether it's an addition or an expansion, or any ground up construction is not eligible. Any standalone minor repairs or cosmetic improvements, any equipment-related expenses such as kitchen appliances, computers, or office furniture does not qualify for reimbursement. However, there are a few exceptions that we make for commercial kitchens. For example, we can cover walk-in coolers and freezers, fire suppression systems, and also kitchen exhaust hoods. Those are the only items that are equipment-related that would qualify for reimbursement through SBIF. Planters that are surrounding or affixed to the building do not qualify. Outdoor dining or drinking areas, including roof decks, beer gardens, outdoor patios, balconies, awnings, porches, and decks. Any fencing, including pergolas, trellises, arbors, privacy screens, and similar structures, parking lot construction or repair, landscaping, and work on the interior of residential units do not qualify for reimbursement through SBIF. What are the SBIF design requirements? The applicants for commercial properties seeking a grant of $25,000 or greater are required to make at least one exterior improvement, using at least 10% of the maximum grant amount. To receive project approval from DPD, improvements must conform to DPD's design guidelines. Applicants are strongly advised to consult with Summer Corps and design professionals on design requirements and guidelines before drawing up plans for work. Key exterior design guidelines that DPD will review during the approval stage include preserving or recreating the original design and window openings when possible, incorporating permanent signage to clearly identify the business, adequate lighting, especially near entrances to welcome customers, avoiding window clutter. The windows should let in natural light and attract passerbys to the business. Please refer to the Department of Buildings guidelines for on-premises window signs for more information. Other forms of security are preferred, but if necessary, only interior mounted security gates that are integrated into the storefront design will be reimbursed. What applicant compliance measures are in place? Checks will be performed on all applicants during the approval stage to ensure that they are complying with child support laws and not indebted to the city. Any scofflaw debt may be cured to participate, must be cured to participate in SBIF. Applicants can cure the debt via a city payment plan. Applicants using a payment plan must be in compliance with that to receive any SBIF reimbursement funds. All applicants must be current on property taxes to receive conditional commitment letter for funding or reimbursement for completed work. Each applicant must sign an economic disclosure affidavit. The grantees must sign an affidavit certifying that they will not relocate out of the TIF district or sell the business or the property within a 3-year period following disbursement of funds. To be reimbursed, the landlord applicants must have an executed lease with a qualified tenant, and that tenant must be occupying and actively operating their business or not-for-profit out of the lease space. How do you apply? You can visit our website to complete the SBIF application within the designated open acceptance period. Please allow 2 business days for Summer Corps to confirm receipt of your application via an email response. If you do not receive an email confirmation within this time, please send an email to spiff@summercorps.com or call the main line at 312-360-3300. The applicants are responsible for making sure submissions are received within the open acceptance period. Applications received after 5 p.m. on the last day of the acceptance period will not be eligible. You can visit our website to access resources to support your SBIF project. You can also connect with your local delegate agency for assistance in filling out your application. On our website, we have the SBIF design guidelines, a list of SBIF contractors that some of our previous applicants have used in the past, as well as licensed contractors by the City of Chicago. There's a list of technical assistance providers, small business resources, and a list of lenders that are familiar with the SBIF program. They've worked with some of our previous SBIF recipients in obtaining financing to get the project done. We then reimburse the applicants by providing the grant proceeds directly to the lender to pay off a portion of their loan, and the applicant is then responsible for paying off the remainder of their loan. Get to know your local delegate agency. These are organizations that are assigned to assist small businesses in the SBIF districts that are opening in June. So here's a list. Please keep in mind that this presentation will be sent to all of you that are attending today, so you have this information handy to you, and they are categorized by TIF district. So for June, our open districts include 119th in Halsted, 47th in King Drive, Chicago and Central Park, Commercial Avenue, and Madison in Austin. We are currently accepting these applications through June 30th at 5 p.m. Please be sure to get your information, your application in well before then. Thank you. Here we have a sample project in the Madison and Austin Corridor TIF District. This is Wiley's Chicken and Ribs. They converted a vacant storefront into the restaurant. They were actually operating across the street from the space, purchased the building, and did a full build out of the restaurant. Here we have the after pictures. They installed a completely new storefront system, complete interior building upgrades and full layout, covered all the building mechanical systems, electrical work, framing, drywall, constructed the new restrooms, installed new grease traps, copper pipes, drains, and gas lines. What additional documents should I have on hand to submit along with the SBIF application? So while it's not required when submitting the initial application form, please note that these items are required to complete the SBIF application process. Keep in mind that the required documents do vary depending on the applicant type. Once we go through the process and we're able to move forward with that application, we will send out a list of items that are required based on your application type. So if you're operating a business, we would ask you for your business tax returns, copies of your license. If you're a landlord, we'd ask you for your executed lease agreement, things of that sort. So keep in mind that some of these items will be provided to you to be completed and returned, and some items will be provided on your end. Are startups or new businesses eligible? Yes, most startups can apply. Startup applicants will need to supply a detailed business plan and projections of the business's income and expenses for its first 36 months of operation as part of their application materials. The City of Chicago reserves the right to impose additional conditions for funding in connection with startup business applications. If you have only been in business for 1 to 2 years, Summer Corps requires tax returns and a projection of gross sales to equal 3 years of data. Am I eligible if I live outside of Chicago? The important consideration is where you have your business or your property. To participate in SBIF, your property must be in the City of Chicago, as the funding source comes from the City of Chicago property taxes. If your business or property is in another area, please call that city's planning, economic development, or community development department to see what other programs may be available to assist small businesses. What if my building has both business and residential spaces? This program is primarily for business use, but there are mixed use exceptions. For these buildings, many envelope projects such as roofing, facade improvements, and tuck pointing can be eligible. Will there be enough SBIF funds for all applicants? Each tax increment financing, known as TIF district, that has SBIF program authorized in it, has limited funds reserved for the program. If the demand for SBIF funds is greater than the available funding supply, then a lottery will be conducted to determine the order in which each grant application may be accommodated. If any surplus funds become available, they will be allocated to the waitlisted applicants. Can SBIF be used with other City of Chicago grant programs? The answer is no. SBIF cannot be used at the same time as other financial assistance programs, like the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund or Chicago Recovery Plan grants, on the same projects covering the same work. However, you may apply for multiple grants at the same time and select the best fit for your project, provided that you stay within the grant timeline requirements. Is there SBIF funding available in my district? Every SBIF area has its own budget that the city refills if it has TIF funds available and if there's a demonstrated need for more grant money. We also maintain an interested parties list for funds, which you can also send an email to SBIF@summercorps.com to join. When more funding becomes available or the city allocates more funds, we will let you know. The interested parties list helps the City of Chicago gauge demand for additional funding. What if I am in a TIF and it is not a SBIF? Tax increment financing is the mechanism that funds the Small Business Improvement Fund program. If you're in an area that is a TIF district and it does not have SBIF, please reach out to your local alderman. Again, thank you very much for joining us. Here we have the contact information for the SBIF team, as well as Nora Curry, who is the director on the City of Chicago's end with the Department of Planning and Development. We do have two websites that are available for you to view. The chicago.gov/SBIF website does have Google Translate available. There are resources available in other languages, so please feel free to visit both websites. If you need Google Translation, please visit the chicago.gov website. And just to let everyone know, I do speak Spanish, so if you or someone you know speaks Spanish and they feel more comfortable speaking in that language, I will be more than happy to assist them. So thanks again for joining us. And as a reminder, a copy of the presentation will be sent to everyone who's with us today, and the video will be available on DPD's YouTube page. So thank you very much for joining us. Now we can proceed with the question and answer session.
Thank you so much, Sylvia, for providing that information. So before we get into the Q&As, well, I guess I should say, if you do have any additional questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A section located at the bottom of your screen. So while we're waiting on that, just a few brief questions. Can you talk about like the most common challenges that applicants face within this program?
Sure. So the biggest challenge, since it is a grant in the form of reimbursement, is having the upfront financing available to you. So don't get discouraged if you do not have the funding available to you now, but we do suggest that you start reaching out to your lender. You can also reach out to the lenders that are listed on our websites to get the process started with the loans, because that's not a quick turnaround. So we want to make sure that you can fully finance your project that you're looking to do. Although we do allow the phases, keep in mind that we can write the grant proceeds directly to the lender. So you can definitely let the lender know that. If they have any questions, they can always reach out to us directly. Another challenge is finding good contractors and architects. So you want to do your research on that. We require at least 2 competitive bids, along with the city licenses and certificates of insurance. However, we do suggest that you get more than 2 estimates. You get a feel for the contractors that come out, their understanding of what it is that you need, so you can definitely vet them. It's ultimately your decision on who you want to use as a contractor.
Okay, thank you. Another question, what if a person has completed their project before approval or submitting an application? Are they able to receive a reimbursement after the fact?
Unfortunately not. We do not cover any work that was completed or paid for prior to approval. So we do ask that you refrain from doing any work, paying for any expenses until you get an official approval from the City of Chicago. Now, if there's a project in motion where, let's say, they're doing a gut rehab and only the framing has gone up so far, we can still cover other elements of the project. For example, the electrical systems, the plumbing, the HVAC, things of that nature. So anything that has not been paid for or started, we can take into consideration to cover it with the grant.
Okay, great. Thank you. We do have a question here. Someone's been visiting businesses to encourage them to apply for SBIF. Many mention that they don't want to waste time because it's impossible to work with other building owners, or they don't want to fix the infrastructure issues of the building that they are renting. Do you have any advice on helping getting businesses on board with applying for the project?
Sure. So first suggestion would be, to start negotiations with the landlord. So the tenant can apply. Also, you can mention it to the landlord. So if the tenant doesn't want to incur those costs, then perhaps the landlord would think that, this is a good option for them. They can cover the cost of the renovations done to the space, but we do want people to take into consideration the fact that you are investing in someone else's building. That can open up negotiations for, different things if they want to, change the rate on how much they charge you, bring up different things. This is a good time to negotiate with the landlord or, just mention it to the landlord and let them know that this program is available to them as well. But it's definitely, something that is good as far as investing in the community, beautifying the spaces, and also just doing things that will help the business function better. If you need a different layout, if you need expansions of some sort, if you need to expand a cooking area or dining area, things like this will definitely come in handy.
Okay, great. Thank you. We have another question. What if you just purchased a building with 3 storefronts? What is the maximum amount that you are awarded for all 3? For example, one property will be used for a restaurant, one for a barber shop, and one will be converted from a lounge to an ice cream parlor. Yes, so I guess they're just trying to figure out what's the maximum that they can receive, given that they have 3 storefronts.
So it all depends on who's actually going to apply for the grant. It can go 2 ways. It can go one direction where the landlord applies for the grant and they can use up to $150,000 to cover renovations as they see fit amongst all 3 storefronts. Or it can be where the landlord applies and also the 3 tenants apply. They would each be capped at $75,000, with the maximum being $250,000 overall for the entire building. So basically it all depends on who's going to incur those costs. That should be the person who's going to submit the application.
Okay, so ultimately it just comes down to who's going to apply will determine the maximum grant assistance that they would receive, whether it's the landlord or the actual tenants occupying the space that will apply for their space. Okay.
Yes, so if it's just the landlord, it's capped at 150. And if it's the landlord plus tenants, they're capped at 75,000 each, with the building capped at 250,000.
Okay, no problem. So I guess, okay, so they just elaborate. So they will be the property owners and the tenants. So they'll be owner occupied.
Okay. Yeah, so in that case, that individual, it all depends on whether or not additional tenants apply, but those are the rules on that end. And we can always go over that again, once the application is submitted and we're going through the process, before the open acceptance period closes. You want to make sure that everyone is all on the same page, because you can't come back and submit an application when, you should have submitted the application. Once that district closes, you'd have to wait until it reopens again.
Okay, thank you. So another question is, a person needs to remove or demo an area for the contractors to bid. Can they include this if approved prior to permit submittal?
Well, we do cover demolition, but they'd have to get approved for that work before they can actually do it. But it is something that we can cover. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be something that we would cover prior to the request for approval. So, they'd have to figure out, exactly what it is that they're doing. If they're demolishing something, we can't cover any new construction. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you. So someone asked the question if their spouse can apply for the grant. The wife is not the city employee, but the city employee is not connected to her business. I guess they're wondering if their wife would be eligible to apply for the grant.
So they can apply for the grants. However, they may be capped at only being able to receive $1,000. They can reach out to us directly. There are some restrictions on that front. Off the top of my head, I do recall city employees being eligible, but they can only receive up to $1,000 in grant funds. If they'd like to reach out to me directly, I can definitely confirm that information and go from there.
Gotcha. And if there's a situation where the spouse is not doesn't have any ownership in the property or the business, does that still have the same restriction?
It should not, no.
Okay. Can a person apply to fix a current commercial building and purchase the adjacent lot at the same time?
They cannot. The acquisition of the adjacent lot can only be done if there is an existing business and property owner. So let's say someone owns their building and they're operating their business out of that space. They're looking to purchase the adjacent lot for either an expansion, although we can't cover it as long as that's the plan, and also, or parking lot renovations. So that's the only situation in which we can cover the acquisition of the property. So you'd have to already own the building, occupy your business, and be seeking the acquisition for expansion or parking.
Okay, thank you. So a person just wanted to clarify the eligibility limits. If you are a tenant, what would be the maximum grant assistance you can receive?
So it depends on the property type. If it is a commercial single-use space, you can get up to $150,000. If you are operating out of a multi-tenant space, meaning there's 2 commercial spaces, 3 or 4, you'd be capped at $75,000.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I'm trying to see if there's any other questions here. Someone is asking, how are the grants being reviewed? Is it by an actual person reading and reviewing? Is there any support in the submittal process to ensure the best opportunity?
So we do everything by hand. We're pretty old school. We still have the paper applications. So there are people that actually review the application. So basically, with the SBIF program, we don't have a selection process. There's no sort of competition here. So if your property is located within the district, if you do qualify for the grant, as far as, your financials and the type of business, if you do have eligible scope of work, basically we can proceed. It all depends on, those sorts of scenarios on whether or not you would qualify for the grant.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Another question is, if a business owner has some work that needs to be done that shares issues with a business owner that's next to them and they need similar work, does the grant depend on both being successfully awarded for the grant to do the work?
Yes, so we would be able to cover work based off of who the applicant is. We would cover work to their space. So if the tenant applies to cover work to their space, we can proceed with that application. If the landlord needs work to his space, he will need to submit a separate application to cover his portion of the work.
Okay, got it. Another question is, can the grant be used for soft costs for new construction? That's architectural drawings, fencing, zoning, etc.
We do not cover new construction, so those elements will not be eligible for reimbursements. However, if it involves an existing building that is looking to be renovated, we do cover soft costs such as architectural drawings, we cover permits, and also engineering fees, but we would not cover those for new construction.
Okay, got it. Someone is asking if new signage would be eligible. If so, like if they have an old sign that's in front of their business and they're looking to replace it with a new one to reflect their business name, would that be something that we can cover under this program?
So we're very limited on what we can cover as far as signage. We cover structural elements of a sign, but we do not cover any business specific elements. Perfect example is, let's say, a box lit sign. We can cover the box, we can cover the electrical work to light up the sign. However, the plastic panel that contains the business specific information, that cost would be excluded. So if it's a structural element, we can cover it. Otherwise, business-specific elements do not qualify for reimbursement.
Okay, got it. Another question. Someone is in the process of purchasing a mixed unit property. Are they still eligible to apply?
They can apply, however, they do have to have site control within 20 days of receiving the request of documentation. Otherwise, we cannot hold the funds if they don't have site control.
Okay, and would that be still the same case if someone is in the process of applying for a land bank property through Cook County? Would they still be eligible to apply?
They would still be eligible, but it all depends on the timing, where things are with that. I know it's not a quick turnaround with those sorts of acquisitions. So again, 20 days would be the time frame for them to submit the proof of the site control.
Okay, thank you. So I think that's all of the questions that we have. Thank you, Sylvia. That was very helpful. I think at this time, this will conclude our SBIF rollout webinar. Thank you for everyone attending. As a reminder, you will be receiving a copy of the presentation via email. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at Summer Corps. You can even give us a call at 312-360-3300 or send us an email at spiff@summercorps.com. We look forward to working with you through this process. Please ensure to get those applications submitted by the deadline date of June 30th at 5 p.m. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you all.